Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of 2026, the Finc Tank. This year, I've decided to be a little bit more intentional and swing it a little bit away from what we were doing last season and focus in on what my market needs, what they've been talking about, and the issues. So this week, I've got the incomparable Annette Minihan. So Annette has held senior HR and people roles at SocGen, Merrill Lynch, Tesco's, Standard Advisory, where I met you.
Yes.
And now Annette has her own career coaching business. So the reason I wanted you, welcome, by the way.
Thank you.
The reason I wanted you on the podcast specifically is I've been reading some of your blogs around particularly topics around like aging and feeling like you're not valuable in the workplace, stagnation of career, doing a career audit, how to handle redundancy. You seem to really touch on all the points that people are really feeling quite personally at the moment.
Yeah, so it's really interesting because I started writing on LinkedIn about 18 months ago. And for me, it was like a bit of a, oh my goodness, what am I doing moment. And how I got over that was by thinking, okay, what are the things that I want to know about or what I would have wanted to hear about as I was developing my career, particularly in corporates. But maybe the information just wasn't readily available or I didn't have access to it. So it's all about trying to share insights about the things that really matter, but sometimes perhaps they're not so easy to get information on. So
Yes.
that's how I've basically designed my kind of, I suppose, LinkedIn profile
Yeah.
and what I talk and share about.
Yeah.
And really happy to discuss all of those things with you today.
Well, I think it's really important because there's the popular misconception about HR that they're there to help you, and they're absolutely not. Like they are and they aren't, but people need to keep perspective that they're a business function for a business, a profit-making business. And the way that people sometimes utilize HR, it could do with some tweaking.
Oh, it's such kind of like a loaded topic.
Yeah.
And even at home last night, while I was sort of thinking about the answers today for you, and I was talking to my partner, and his reaction to HR was really interesting, and I think there's a lot of that. So possibly a lot of misunderstandings. So what are HR there to do? How can they help you? And particularly, how can they, I suppose, help push your career on? And it's a bit of a shared responsibility. So HR has lots of different functions, lots of different parts, where people tend to have different roles. So, for example, reward is very much concerned with pay. The HR business partners are really the architects, and they basically set up the frameworks to ensure transparency, that the organization design is there for it to work. And that line managers have the support that they need to run and develop their business. Learning and development, that are very close to my heart, are very much the engine room. And not just how do we basically ensure we have the right capability now, but more importantly, how do we have the right capability for the future? Spotting talent early, ideally your high potentials, ensuring they get stretched and developed, but also putting infrastructure in place so that everybody has access to the insights. But at the end of the day, it's the line manager, your boss, who basically helps to activate all of those processes on your behalf. And what I say to everyone is, as an individual, you've got to take responsibility for your career. Nobody's going to care about your career as much as you do.
Oh, it's true.
And it's not about being nasty. It's not that, people don't care, they do. But, I'm sure, like, if I asked your best friend, Jess, what do you do?
Yeah.
They'd probably go, oh, I'm not quite sure. Maybe she places candidates.
She talks all day and drinks too much.
Exactly. And I think it's the same for all of us. So,
Yeah.
As individuals, we've got to figure out, where do we want to go? What do we want? What are our goals and aspirations? And then work with the system that we're within, the organization, the function, the industry, to kind of figure out, how do we get there? And I really basically encourage everyone to chat to people, to explore, and to actually kind of figure out, okay, what's their plan going to be?
And would you say, so you've got me on two tangents there. So right now, this time of year is when we're having the bonus and promotion discussions internally. So well, some banks do it in the summer, but a
Yeah.
lot of them are having it now. From a HR perspective, let's do quick fire. From a HR perspective,
Uh-huh.
when do those decisions get made on promotion and bonus?
Oh my God, last year.
When?
They're actually locked down probably September, October, but they've been in the planning for at least 18 months.
Okay, so go and so bonus is kind of you get your budgets, you decide, but we're talking pay rise and promotion. So if I am a person wanting a pay rise or promotion, which I hope we all are,
Absolutely.
when should I start hustling? When should my game plan begin?
If you're looking for a pay rise for this time next year,
Yeah.
you now need to start thinking about it now. So if your pay rise gets announced in February, we'll start thinking about it February, March this year.
Right.
And looking at, okay, so what do I need to do? How do I need to do it? And how do I need to prove value? And that's about understanding the organization, understanding the goals, the priorities, and the strategies, and making sure that your goals align to helping deliver some of those things.
How do you do that though? Like, do you go and sit your manager down in a very Kiwi Jess way and say, what do I need to do?
That's exactly what I would do as well.
or what is it that actually like? So we're at this time of year. We're looking to next year. I want to get a big pay rise because I think I'm worth it. I'm going to work my ass off.
Absolutely.
Step one.
Step one is basically have a poke through the internet sites for HR and try and figure out what are the actual competencies that have been set by the organization for your function and for the level that you're at. And I know we're going to get into what's the difference between a VP and a manager, but actually understand exactly what those differences are. So, for example, if you're a VP today, what do you need to be doing to just operate, be at the level to get paid? And then if you want to get promoted, then what are the competencies that you need to be displaying at that senior level, director level, for people to go, my gosh, absolutely, that person is operating above where we expect a VP to be.
Yeah.
And then basically match that back with having the chat with your line manager. And not even your line manager, your boss's boss. Because they will absolutely be involved in assessing whether or not what your pay is, but also whether you get promoted. But promotions don't happen in silos.
No.
Very often you are competing against a pool of people across your department,
Sure.
even across the organization. So there'll probably be, 20 promotions to director next year across all the different departments. There will potentially be maybe 50 people up for promotion. And the people who are going to be sitting on that promotion committee are not just your boss or your boss's boss, but it could be the finance director, the COO, the CEO. So what you've got to do is to make sure that you have profile and visibility throughout the organization. But most importantly, you're working directly on projects with the people who will be sitting on that promotion board.
Very political.
Oh, it's really
like a campaign, isn't it?
Well, it's not political per se, but it's basically
PR.
understanding the game and understanding how it gets played so that you can put yourself in the best position to essentially be the right person in the right place at the right time, and that people know what you're contributing.
No, actually talking about, because we're talking VP and director, and that is relevant to the audience, but there are a junior pool of candidates that listen, I hope still listen, sorry I've been away. And back in my day, a lot of the value or a lot of the hard work that people saw was bums on seats. You're in the office early, you're leaving late. That doesn't happen now with working from home as much.
Ooh.
How do we combat that as a more junior workforce? Because, and I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
So I personally think if you're staying late all the time, you need to look at your day and how efficient you are. But what advice have you got for someone who, they're not super extroverted? I know you did a really good blog on this actually. They're not super extroverted. They're not outgoing. They're not going to shout in every meeting and they're not going to talk up. They're the quiet, steady worker and they're looking for a promotion and pay rise.
It's a couple of things. So going into a meeting, even if it's virtual on Zoom, and actually being brave to put your hand up, even if it's the little virtual yellow hand, can be really tough. But I think knowing what you want to contribute and where you want to contribute is really important. So kind of set yourself a little challenge or a little task. Today, I'd like to basically mention one thing. And just put your hand up for that one thing, even if you just write it into the comments. and it's taking little steps. I'm a real big fan of little steps.
Yeah, of course.
So if you don't talk at all in meetings and it's a virtual meeting, you can put it into the notes or into the comments. And then the next time, give yourself a little challenge to actually make 1 point.
Yeah.
And the next time, maybe 2.
Yeah.
And that's really useful because particularly in the virtual world, it's visibility is important. The one thing you can do is turn on your camera.
Oh and if you don't do that,
because people will see your smiley face. Maybe log on a little bit earlier before the meeting starts. You know, that 5-10 minutes when people are like dialing in, and have a little bit of an informal chat. So before we all basically worked from home, you were kind of milling into the meeting room and going, how was the weekend, you know, etc. So do a little bit of that informal piece at the start. And that's really good. And sometimes as well, just sharing a little bit of who you are. When somebody says, how was the weekend? You go, it was great. You know, I basically did my first outdoor swim this weekend. I'm, you know, back in training, you know, for whatever. And they go, oh my gosh, Jess swims.
Jess does swim, but not outdoors in the UK. Thank you very much.
But it's little things.
Yeah.
But the same advice applies. Most of the large organizations will have set competencies that you need to show that you're working at for your level. So know what is expected of you at your level, so that as a minimum you're providing that. But then again, I always basically say to people, know what the level above you should be doing, and actually try and incorporate some of those activities into your day-to-day as well, because then you're seen as a top performer.
Totally. Like the anticipation of needs. I read a really good book over the Christmas break, and it was talking about the role of the middle to juniors in large organizations and the reframing. You need to think of, what problem am I solving for my manager? What do they expect for me to do, and what can I anticipate? So, for example, in financial crime, if you're working in KYC or AML advisory or anything that's really quite high touch with the business, if you can see friction coming up with the front office, go and meet them. Get to know your colleagues and your counterparts across the business, because like you say, that audience or that stakeholder engagement is what will set you apart from other people in the area.
Absolutely. The best bit of advice I was ever given, it was my first week at Merrill Lynch, and it was walk the floor twice a day. So get up from your desk and go walk around, see who's there, and actually have a chat. Now, I know that's a little bit more difficult in the virtual world that we work in. But if you're in the office, you know, twice a week, which is quite norm, twice a day, maybe at about 11 o'clock, maybe at about 2:30, do a little wander around and actually just have a chat with people and go, oh my gosh, been meaning to catch you. Have you seen my email? Would love your thoughts on ABC.
Yes.
And just being a presence and being a face. And that is the fastest way for junior people to get promoted and to get paid, because it's not expected from them.
Yeah.
You expect your directors to do it, but maybe you don't expect the same for the associates. But if the associates are known within the business, and if people are saying great things about them, because they will be, because they're known, that is a fantastic way to elevate your brand and to elevate your career.
Well, let's talk about elevation. Nice little segue from you. So the biggest jump, so there's the most difficult jump in banking and financial services is director to ED, and it literally goes down. Like you were saying, there are a ratio of directors that will get promoted across the business. AVP is also a really big jump, and it's actually quite tricky for me to recruit at the moment, because people expect a lot for their AVPs at the moment. When we were talking in the prep, you mentioned a career audit. What does that look like?
Honesty.
Yeah.
And being honest with yourself, where you are and where you're operating with.
Right.
I have a version that we produced around Christmas time that I'm happy to share with everyone to have a look at. And it's about asking the questions about, okay, what went well last year?
Yeah.
What didn't go so great? We all know the things that we should be doing that we never quite get time for.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. Creating podcasts for me being one of those things. So jot them down and actually kind of go, okay, I'm not putting any judgment, but this is my honest reflection on where I am this year. But my secret to success is we all only know what we know. And it's really easy to get caught up in our own little world. So then have a few people who you trust to give you their input.
In business or out of your business?
Both.
Because that's what I think is that there's a sorry, that was my point wasn't really well articulated before.
No.
The AVP to VP and those kind of jumps. I think we just assume, because if you're good and hardworking in your career, you do get up and you go up, and then suddenly you find yourself stagnating at certain levels, and you think, why on earth is that person getting promoted? I'm so much better. I work so much harder. So what sort of questions should I be asking myself if I'm not getting promoted when I really feel like I should have been?
So the phrase that comes to mind, and this is probably one that people have heard before, but what got you here won't get you there. So if you are heads down, get the job done type person, you're probably brilliant at just getting those tasks off your desk, moving stuff on next. But maybe you're not so great at sharing what you do and how you do it. And actually visibility is massive. People need to know what you do and what you contribute. And if they don't know, well, then they can't trust you. A promotion is all about trust, because you're only ever going to give those very big roles, even if it's the AVP to VP, VP to director type steps up. You've got to trust that individual. You've got to trust how they think, how they see the world, and what they do. And people need to know you. So that whole piece of visibility is massively important. And, it happens both internally and externally within the business. So you've got to do a little bit of work at that. And what I say to people is put a wee bit of time aside every week where you actually, it's your golden sort of like 90 minutes where Jess works on Jess and Jess basically does whatever you need to do to create that visibility for you in the business. But coming back to the early part of the conversation, it's knowing what's expected of you.
What would be surprising to people, like that in that VP to director jump, which is nigh impossible at the moment, everyone. Don't be disillusioned with yourself if you're not getting that jump. But what would be surprising to people that is discussed in those meetings?
Oh my gosh. So we're talking about the conversations behind the curtains. The biggest thing is, if I'm going to promote you, how does that look on me?
Ooh.
And do I trust you? Do I trust that the decisions you will make that will come back to me, particularly if they're negative, and that I can live with that? So if I am the MD of the function and I'm promoting Jess to director as my number 2, do I basically feel comfortable that you absolutely know what you're doing, when you're doing it, and how you should be doing it?
Yeah, right. Because you're fighting up against like a potential direct promotion from finance, from sales, from wherever.
God, yeah.
The whole shebang.
And basically, of course, if I want to get you promoted, I think you're brilliant. I know you basically want the responsibility, the title, maybe the money. But I've actually then got to get finance to say, yes, Jess can be promoted. The COO needs to weigh in behind that as well. So partly is, if I'm your boss, I have a responsibility to ensure you have the right exposure, that people know who you are, that you've been working on the right projects. So it's a two-way process where I've got to help you get there, but also you've got to help me get you there as well, if that makes sense. So it's basically showcasing how you think that you... So for example, when it comes to decision making, a VP will be expected to think about the area, to focus on developing the team, developing the talent in-house in the team. Whereas a director is expected to think wider across the business. What's the risk? What is the opportunities that my department, let's say I'm compliance, can actually, bring forward into the business to make everything better for marketing, for finance, for, the sales guys within the group. So it's a different mindset and it's a wider mindset. So when we were prepping for this, I came up with the upwards
I liked it.
analogy. Now I'm going to forget that. So I've got crib notes, folks. But we will share this with you as well. So upwards was ultimate owner of the tasks. So it comes down to if I'm promoting you
To director.
to director from VP, you're going to be accountable, and you're accountable for everything else that the department will do. You won't be carrying out all of those tasks, but can you basically take that accountability? Do you have that vision for what needs to be done, not just now, but in the next 3 to 5 years? Perspective is the next piece. Can you see wider across the area, across your patch? As in, like, what's happening in the business? How does this all link in? Can you connect the dots for everyone, which is massively important? Then the W stands for the weight of influence. So when Jess walks into the building, or when you basically log on to the Zoom call, do you influence? Do you have the right tone of authority? Do people listen to you? And most importantly, do they trust you? Which is massively important. A is accelerate, talent. We all know talent is great. As a VP, I expect you to develop the team. As a director in the business, I expect you to sponsor and to mentor across the business. So you're bringing through a pipeline of talent for the future, not just in your department. So who is Jess? When Jess is talked about in marketing, in finance, what do they say? What do the traders say about you?
Yeah.
Massively important, because that reflects back on compliance as a department as a whole, which is important. Then the D stands for, decisions and how responsible they are. So as a VP, you'll probably make decisions for the department, and you'll make a lot of them every day. Your role is to keep the department running, to keep the standards high, and to keep the show on the road. As a director, you will make fewer decisions, but they'll be more complicated, far more messy, involve a greater budget perhaps, and it's full scrutiny from the business as to whether they work or not.
Yeah.
So they're slightly more pressurized. So can you basically cope with that type of decision-making responsibility is massively important if I'm considering you for promotion. And then finally, the S stands for strategy. So as a VP, you will basically implement the strategy. You will basically figure out, how do we get this done? As a director, you will actually ponder, is this the right strategy? How does this impact us for the longer term? But most importantly, if it isn't right, how do we pivot? How do we change?
Yes.
But in a very calm, reassuring, influencing type manner.
Yeah.
And all of that is incredibly easy to say. And I've probably rattled it off in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
The most important piece is to actually put it into practice and to create opportunities for yourself to showcase that is how you think, that is what you do. And again, another bit of advice that somebody gave me a very long time ago is that every day is an interview. You pitch up as if you're basically doing your performance review, and you kind of go, okay, what do I need to do? How do I need to do this to showcase?
It's interesting, that the way that you're sort of framing that, because in the recruitment that we've done this year, which is crazy already for a January, it's very, very busy considering what's going on in the world, Trump. The word that keeps coming up over and over again at all levels is ownership. Can they own their ship?
Yeah.
And it seems to be that people just want people who really give it a tutti frutti, are looking forwards and want to help the business. And it's not too much to ask. We're going to go on to a slightly different topic, which is also really close to my heart and is something that's affecting our market in unprecedented numbers almost. Well, not unprecedented, but it's awful. Redundancy, the big R word.
Yeah.
I have had, and I know my other recruiter friends have had messages upon messages of really top talent. There was an article in eFinancial Careers yesterday about HSBC gutting out their directors and MDs. And they did it anyway by asking them to go on 4 days a week. So there's all sorts of ways that they're getting around that. But there is a lot of senior top talent, also junior top talent, but senior top talent who are being made redundant. First question I have for you is, behind the closed door of HR, how are those conversations happening? Like, how is it decided? I know it's a financial decision, but is it ever personal? Is it ever anything like that? And how could people protect themselves against redundancy in any way?
I think the first thing is redundancy isn't personal. It feels personal. Oh my
Totally.
God. And it feels like a betrayal.
Feels like a breakup.
Oh, it's worse than a breakup because it
death.
impacts the salary and
Yeah.
your income and your cash flow.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so traumatic, because so much of your life is built around that cash flow.
Absolutely.
And it typically comes out of nowhere. It's a bolt out of the blue. If you're on that list for redundancy, you probably didn't know that it was happening. And unfortunately, that has probably been discussed for maybe 4 to 6 months in advance.
Right.
Not you potentially, but the business needs to change. It needs to be reshaped. It needs to be restructured. And very often what's happening is they're looking at that longer term picture and what's the skills that we need for the future rather than maybe what we hired for in the past.
Well, we're automating a lot of stuff. Like
Absolutely.
saying the dirty word of AI in this podcast for the millionth time, but it is the way businesses are future-proofing themselves is, do we need so many people doing that job? And it's a really calculated and transactional way to look at business, but that's what they are.
Yeah, and there's a massive amount out there. Gosh, the amount that's been written about AI taking away jobs, etc. It's it's crazy amount of space that's taken up. My one advice is future-proof yourself by actually embracing the AI, understanding what it can do, how it can do it, how it can be useful, so that you can take away some of those boring, repetitive tasks that essentially anybody could do. So then use the resources you have within the function, within the department to add more value, to interact more with the business, to do the value added strategic type projects that we perhaps know we need to get to but never quite get there.
Yeah, right.
And adding value is the best way to protect yourself against redundancy.
But like you say, it's not personal. It's sometimes just a business decision. So if you have found yourself redundant at any level, you wrote a really interesting blog talking about weak links being the unused gold, basically.
Oh, yes.
So talk to us about a weak link and how it can help.
So a weak link is not weak at all. It's your most powerful tool. And it is all the people that you have worked with down through the years that know you, that know who you are, know what you do. And if you ping them and they go, oh my God, I'm so pleased to hear from you. How are things? What's happening? You perhaps worked in the same team, within the same organization in a past life. And they don't need to get to know you. They already know you. And consequently, they trust you. And because they've gone on to a new and different world, they have a lot of new friends that you don't know. So they can open massive amounts of doors. And the best place where I saw this work a couple of summers ago was somebody had been made redundant from one of the German banks. And he didn't work in compliance, but a similar type of business, which is very specialized. And he was looking at opportunities in the market during the summer months, which we know is dreadful for hiring.
Yeah.
But a role came up with an organization and he looked good on paper for it. Brilliant. The headhunter was happy to help him. But then he actually used LinkedIn to see who from his past now worked at that organization, the supposed weak link. And he pinged that person going, hi, I seen there's an opportunity coming up that will support your business area. And his weak link went, oh my God, are you interested? Are you on the market? Brilliant. I'm going to pop around and talk to the hiring manager straight away. So no surprise, 6 weeks later, he got the job. And
it's not sponsorship, isn't it?
Absolutely. But like in hiring, and Jess, you know this,
the
biggest thing is like, it's a massive risk. If I bring this person in, are they going to be able to do what they say they're going to do? Can they hit the ground running? Can they add value? Will they make me look good as the hiring manager? And if you're already known to somebody within the organization and you are being referred on as somebody who's great at what they do, well, a massive amount of the risk of hiring is taken away.
But it's also the undercurrent that people don't talk about is there's a lot of soft referencing that goes on.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I don't think I've made a hire in 15 years where someone's not asked someone if they know someone and how good they are. For exactly like you say, it's a almost personal risk to the person bring them on board. How are you going to make me look? Let me just check. And fin crime and compliance, as you know, is very, I'm going to say incestuous. It's very incestuous and everyone knows everyone. And people leverage those connections. So how aside from going through your whole workbook and seeing who you've worked with, how would you identify people that you think that you should meet while you're on redundancy and you think, and do you have to go for coffees with them, or can you just have a Teams call and see how they're doing? What was your best advice?
I think nothing beats face to face.
Totally.
But because you actually get more of a sense of who the person is, what's happening, the body language clues, etc., just make the whole thing better.
Mm-hmm.
And in today's mad world where we have less meetings face to face, meeting somebody for coffee is the most valuable thing you can possibly do.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not possible. They're in another country. They're busy. And effectively, if you're meeting somebody, they're giving you the most valuable commodity, which is their time. So a Zoom call with cameras on, of course, is the next best thing.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just about reminding people that you exist. So my biggest piece of work last year came out of posting on LinkedIn. And it was somebody who I had worked with as a baby recruiter 23 years ago. And I think he never once even commented or liked a post. But he started watching what I was doing. And then suddenly on a random Thursday morning, I get a message going, "You around? I want to run something past you." I went, "Yeah, of course." It's amazing. So even just if you've basically been made redundant, okay, think about, visibility. And I know that's probably a nasty word if you haven't been engaged in it before. So the easiest things to do is to meet people that you already know, the weak links, as we said, for coffee. But then also, you have this fantastic tool, which is LinkedIn. And you don't need to put the sub-story on it. I wouldn't advise that. But actually, who is Jess now? So we worked together 10 years ago. What has evolved? The fact, I loved your post where you were off to New Zealand for a month. And it was so sweet because you were talking about going home and, bringing your youngest son to meet your dad, his granddad, for the first time.
Yes.
And oh my gosh, it was so heartfelt.
I never post like that either.
But it was lovely, Jess. And I didn't comment, I didn't say anything, but I went, oh my God, that's really sweet. And also for me, that basically helped me understand your values.
But also, sorry, it has to be said, I went to a networking event last week and everyone kept saying, "How was your trip?" How does everyone know? And I thought, oh, everyone knows. And I think familiarity breeds trust.
Oh
right?
my God, yeah.
So if people think, and I agree with you, I think, there's two thoughts on the sob stories on LinkedIn. One, absolutely be honest. If you are, I've seen many a post where people said, "Look, I'm down to the last buck here. I'll take anything. I will comment, share, I'll introduce." You can't do it every week, but if it's coming from a genuine place, go for it. If that's what you need to do, message people like me. People think recruiters were out to make a buck, but if you have seen a job and I'm not working with that client, I will absolutely introduce you, particularly if you're out of work. So leveraging people that are the key players in the market can be useful. Going to events, sometimes you can message, the ICA, or you can message FFE or someone and just say, "Look, I'm out of work, but I'd love to come." They can only say no. The going to sort of the visibility thing doesn't have to come at a cost. And if you're out of work, targeting people who you don't know, but writing something like, "I admire your work," or I've seen, "What would you think of this sanction coming out?" or whatever, creating a dialogue with someone that isn't just "give me a job."
Yeah, and also do your research. So there's nothing worse than somebody basically saying, pitching up and saying, "What can you do for me?" It's like, no.
Totally. Any conversation that starts with, "Oh my God, I get them all the time on my LinkedIn, get me a job."
Yeah.
One sentence. And I think, F off. And I'll never help you. Even though it's a perfectly reasonable request to a recruiter, it's the framing and the way they talk about it.
But also, Jess, it's understanding how the market works. So essentially, you and I got to know each other where I was in-house. And I was the person who was saying, "Jess, we need to hire these roles, et cetera, et cetera." And I was paying you a fee, a retainer, to go out there to tell me who were the best people on the market against my shopping list.
Yes.
And I defined the shopping list as the client. And, if you came back with 10 profiles that didn't actually meet that list, I would have been looking at you going, "What are you doing?" And go back out there and do it again, please. Thank you very much.
Actually, this is a really good point because I don't think people understand the dialogue between a recruiter and HR. We'll keep line managers separate because they sometimes live in la la land. But HR, I'm talking to you. "Hi, Annette.
Yeah.
John, Jan has given me this role. This is what they're asking for. Right. Well, Jess, we need people with 10 years experience. They must have worked at another French bank, like very niche specific stuff. And I say, well, the market won't support that. Can we look at American banks? Yes. Would you look at someone from First Line? No. So if I then send you First Line profiles from outside of the banks you've requested, you'll either, one, not give me the remit ever again.
Yeah.
Two, look at me like I've got 3 heads. Or 3, you'll just go straight to another recruiter and exclude me. So there's 2 sides to it, right? Like, as a recruiter, you need me to have jobs so I can place you into jobs. But if I'm constantly being candidate driven and just sending who's applying to the job, I won't have any bloody jobs to recruit. And you get fed up with, because it's a commercial relationship at times. You know, you're paying me quite a large fee for the work that I do. I can't just send you what the market dictates. My job is to find what you need.
Yeah.
To solve a problem.
Yeah. And also it's kind of like, we think about it quite a lot. We have an initial discussion about what the job spec looks like, you know, how's that reflective of the market? What can we find? And recruitment, as we know, is always about compromise. But you can't compromise on the core skills that you need. And if, you know, we talked about somebody recently who loves investigations.
Yes.
But, you know, the type of role that candidate would be great for just isn't out there at the moment.
In the market. And actually, this might be a really good point to make. Before I get a job, typically, particularly from a bank, it's gone 2 weeks internal, which means internal people can apply, 2 weeks with talent, which is your direct resourcing, and then they come to a recruiter. So it's already gone through the, could we try, could we promote, could we think laterally? And they think, no, we really need this specific skill set. So we're going to go to the best recruiter in the world, Jess.
Absolutely. I do absolutely advocate that. She's the best going.
Thank you. And so I've got to listen to this prescriptive list. And I wonder sometimes in my little pea brain if it's a hark back to the times where people were often told, you know, women don't apply for every job if they don't tick every list, and go for it and just apply and go for it. And there is an element to that, right? Like if you're in this sphere of the role, if you're meeting 4 out of the 5 requirements, still apply, but the market has shifted because compliance has grown up. Compliance and FinCrime have grown up. You're in a bigger field of play now. So there's more players. If you're applying for a FinCrime advisory role, there used to be, call it 100 people that did it. There's probably 1,000 people that do it now. And so who you're competing with is a lot, like banks and clients can be way more prescriptive. There's less jobs because of the redundancies. Yeah. So they put a job out and everyone's seen you get 1,000 million applications. Little recruiter secret here, guys. I don't advertise even a third of my roles anymore because I don't have the capacity to literally, and I will say, wade through applications. When applying to jobs, to stand out to me, I sometimes say to people, look, if you really feel passionate about this job, I can't submit you as a recruiter because I've got a reputation and they will kill me if I submit you, but this is the client, go and apply directly. Hey, do you ever get repeat application in HR, and how does that make you feel when someone's applying all day, every day for the same role?
Oh my God, it used to happen all the time.
Yeah, we get them.
The worst thing that ever happened to some degree is the easy apply button on LinkedIn.
Oh, kill me.
Easy apply.
They can do it on the train. They can do it on the toilet. They can do it walking down the street. There's no thought.
Oh yeah, easy apply, and then the AI written cover letter, which was a conversation that I had with somebody last week. So it's a competitive market. So they've got to make it easy for the headhunter, for the recruiter to choose them. And, you know, a typical role is probably going to get, I don't know, a minimum of 200 applications.
Minimum.
Absolute minimum. You know, so then essentially what most candidates don't fully understand is how much time or how little time is actually spent reviewing the CV.
Well, if you think about it, we've got, as a recruiter, external, I've got maybe 5 to 10 jobs on at once.
Yeah.
As if I could spend half an hour on each application. And actually, this is a really insider trading for you guys. When you post a LinkedIn job ad as a recruiter, we get the LinkedIn job ad email and it says your name, your job title, and your company. And if your job title says that you are something completely irrelevant for this job and the last 2 jobs, delete. You're not relevant. So really make sure that that little window, I'll try and find an example and post it on the internet when I post this, really showcases what you do, because a lot of people have, I don't know, they're applying for jobs and they're boot sales assistants. So I'm not then going to go and click and open that CV and review the CV. It's a really quick filtering thing. Have they done anything in this sphere? Is it worth opening their CV?
Yeah.
So if that tagline that you've got on your LinkedIn doesn't make me feel like it's worth opening your CV, this sounds incredibly ruthless, guys, and I'm sorry, but it's, ask any recruiter, this is how they do it. I'm not going to open your CV because I cannot open every boot sales assistant, KYC analyst applying for MLRO roles, MLROs applying for KYC roles. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, so Harvard did a study a number of years ago, and they basically figured out that the average CV review takes 6 seconds. And I remember, at the time kind of being a little bit shocked about it. Then I sat down, and I was at Merrill's this time, so it's quite a long time ago now. And I literally had a pile of CVs, and literally 200 CVs. I went through it manually in an hour. Like literally title, where have they worked, and what's the first 2 or 3 things they've said that they've done. So that piece
Absolutely.
on LinkedIn, the about section, that is your most valuable real estate.
Oh my God, yeah.
And that piece on the top of your CV, that little 2 or 3 lines, that summary, that profile,
Yeah.
that's the first thing people are going to see. So you've actually got to basically do quite a lot of work to make sure that that resonates and that hits the spot, so that you make it easy for the recruiter
and also
to understand what you do.
And also, we're giving a lot of credit to recruiters. Not all recruiters know everything about financial crime and compliance, not like me. or, so if I was looking at training a junior recruiter, or the training that junior recruiters typically get in the big firms, it's the things you look at are the company. Do they work for a company you know? The job title. Are they doing a job that is relevant? And the tenure in the roles. Those are the 3 top factors in a CV that people are looking at. And it's unfair because you can't all work at Goldman Sachs for 10 years and something advisory. But if you don't have those 3 things, is your CV structured well? Are you applying for the appropriate jobs? Are you writing things that you've achieved in your CV? You may have worked at, fintech.com that no one knows, and you may have not done a really sexy job, but have you achieved some stuff, and is it a well-structured CV? A well-written CV will catch my eye as quick as someone from Goldman Sachs.
So the rule of thumb, and this came from my time at Tesco's, is that whatever you produce, a CV, a cover letter, an email, has to be readable and understood by a reasonably intelligent 12-year-old. So really, really clear, really well structured. But for time poor, even for somebody who really knows what they're doing, can they understand really quickly what you add, what you value, what you do, why you're applying for that role.
And respect to the reader. Bullet points only, please.
Yeah.
I don't want War and Peace, Wuthering Heights.
Yeah.
On what you're doing. I just need bullet points so I can quickly go down. No ChatGPT, please. Because it's becoming standardized. Your CV will not stand out if it's a ChatGPT format against the other 15 people who have done that. And I understand that you want to get it sense checked, but please just add some different structure and use a different color blue, for goodness sake. And phone numbers. I know people don't want to put phone numbers or emails on your CV. For busy recruiters and busy HR people, if you make it one step harder to get into contact with you, you might go to the end of the day to-do list.
Well, yeah, or you might never get there. So if we could go back to the original example of 200 applications, I presume like you're putting together a long list of 10, a short list of 5.
Yep.
So the hit rate has got to be quite small, from that, those numbers alone. So the individual's got to make it easy for the recruiter to help them. And for people to understand. And I suppose the difference, Jess, as well, is that if I was coming to you to hire in the morning, I know that you know exactly what you're doing. You know exactly who's who in the market. But if I'm using an in-house talent acquisition team, where maybe some of the people on that team may be relatively recent university grads, perhaps, they won't know the different names of the market. they won't know the pedigree of some of the organizations because they haven't been around that long. So then the individual, when they're writing their CV, has got to ensure that the information they present is easily understood to somebody who hasn't spent 10 years in the business.
That's exactly it. And I get a lot of CVs, and there's a fintech popping up every 2 minutes. And so people send me these CVs with hokypokey.com and clock.com and da. And I'm thinking, Jesus wept. Now I've got to go and research all these companies to see if you're relevant. Just put a little blurb, please. Payments company, EMI, I don't know, cross-border payments, whatever it is.
Yeah. So, I worked for a number of years at Tesco's in head office, restructuring their international teams, etc. But when I was writing my CV, I basically put into that it was head office for Tesco's, turnover 3.5 billion at the time, and that I was responsible for the top 1% of the talent in the organization. Because I didn't want people to think that I was at the local Tesco's, topping up the shelves.
So it's anticipating how people may read your CV.
Or what
worst
they
case
understand.
Scenario. Yes,
Yeah.
worst case scenario. Yep, totally.
And by the way, just a caveat, absolutely nothing about wrong about the local Tesco's.
No, of course not, but that's
it's
just
awesome.
But that's just not, they are. That's just not the role you were doing. And I agree, like there's a lot of perceptions about certain firms. Like, for example, if you work at HSBC versus HSBC Innovation Bank, be very specific. You work on the innovation side. Like it's very different, or the wealth, the investment, or whatever. Don't just put HSBC or Barclays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And recruiters like you will understand that the Innovation Bank came out of Silicon Bank.
Yep.
And that was a very different culture to HSBC.
Totally.
So the people would probably be slightly different.
But I know that.
Yes.
Because I'm
You're you.
cool. But newer recruiters or internal recruiters who may have spent 90% of their year recruiting IT and now have to switch into fin crime, they've maybe not looked at Innovation Bank. They have no idea. And even though it's a big name and hypothetically people should know who they are and what they do, just don't assume, because contextualizing what you do is as powerful as writing it.
Yeah. And I think as well, people sometimes believe falsely that the person who's reading their CV has experience that you and I have, Jess. But actually, very often, the first screening is done by somebody way, way more junior who doesn't have the same level of knowledge. Or sometimes, and I've known it in places where the person who's screening the CV for the CEO is their PA.
Totally, especially in the smaller places.
Yeah, and the PA is amazing and she's brilliant because she is normally a she. But she may or may not have the same breadth of insight on a particular market or skill set.
Totally, yeah. So to get through the first screen. Now, one thing that I want to talk about that we mentioned earlier at the start was the aging out and how people are feeling like they're aging out. And I've had a few conversations with people who've been made redundant or wanting a career move, and they're only 50 or 40, and they're saying, oh, I'm not getting interviews. I think it's because of my age. And I think, bloody is. I bet it is. I bet it is. So how have you ever had a story of helping someone, or a success story, or anything that someone's done that you think really kind of combats their own personal limiting beliefs, but also the perception in the market?
Okay, so it's not talked about very much. It is getting a little bit more media, which is great because it needs to. But it does exist. But I really believe, rather than battling against something, how do we figure out what the game is and how do we play it? So, for example, I would say to people, write your profile, present yourself to the market, and take some of the things that would age you off.
Yeah. Totally.
So, for example, you can put your education up on LinkedIn and you don't need to use the years. So take the years off. So the fact that I have a management degree, that I've done my master's, etc., I don't need to say when that was. Or sometimes, if you've done something more recently, you might leave the date in because it's advantageous to you. If you started work, 30 years ago, and your first couple of jobs were totally irrelevant to what you do now, they don't need to be there.
I'll go back 10 years and stop.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't need, if I'm really curious about what you did before 10 years, we can have a conversation, but your CV would be too long.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, it's basically, it's about being aware of how things are perceived.
Yeah.
So do a course or show something where you've done a project working on AI.
Crypto as well, guys, and Finc and
Absolutely.
compliance. If you have not covered crypto and you just think it's not for you, it's for you, babes, if you want a career.
Yeah, and I think longer term. So, what are the skills that seem to be in demand? What can you showcase that you can bring value to, that you've added sort of insights into, and actually make yourself as the go-to person. The biggest tip for anybody who's slightly older is basically have a social media profile. Because if you're a little bit older, you're probably applying for more senior roles. And then the organization is going to need you to represent the organization, not just in the office at the Christmas party, but actually go to conferences, speak, talk, be seen as the thought leadership. Thought leader, can't even say it now. You write articles that shares your insights, but that presents you to the world in a progressive, modern, updated type way.
Now, there's a whole pool of candidates that I think is also neglected, and they're the ones who are in their 50s or 60s,
Yeah.
and they don't want to be leaders. They just like their job, and they just want to work.
Yeah.
And they've been made redundant, and their confidence is completely not. And it's really hard because they're applying against, at that level, younger, hungry, fast, How, in a HR perspective, how could they do to present themselves to show the value they could add?
It's all about showing what you've contributed as in your achievements. So at the end of every single line on your LinkedIn profile or on your CV, when I'm reading a CV, I'm thinking, okay, so what?
Yeah.
Why are you telling me this? How did you move the business forward? The "but for you" statement. So going back to our investigations girl, because it's the most relevant example in my head. So she absolutely loves delving into messy, complicated, problems where there isn't any answer. But that work that she does has saved her organization, hundreds of thousands in, complicated business deals that they shouldn't have been involved in. It has strengthened the relationship between the organization and the police because she's uncovered things that the police didn't know at the time, and they've shared the information. So she can totally answer what have I brought to the party? How do I help you as an organization evolve not just your function, but your standing in the community? So there's lots of little things like that. You don't have to be Superman or Superwoman to have an impact on an organization, but you do need to own what you've delivered.
Yes.
And actually know how great you are.
Yep.
And sometimes if you've taken a confidence knock and it's hard to get out of bed, and you kind of maybe, if you've been made redundant, there's a feeling sometimes of shame, that it's happened and you don't want to talk about it. The best thing possible is to have 2 or 3 little buddies who probably maybe not quite in the same situation as you at the time, but who know you, who believe that you're fantastic, and who check in on you as a sense check every sort of like couple of days.
And
what's
getting
going
out
on?
and about, right? Like I think about redundancy a lot because it's impacting my market a lot. And I can just imagine if it had happened to me, I have a lot of empathy for them because it would be, you've gone from having a routine all day, every day. All your colleagues might still be at work. You might be the only one made redundant. So getting out and meeting people still for a coffee, going out and catching up with people in their lunch break, keeping in amongst what's going on in the industry. You might not want to go to events. I wouldn't either if I was being made redundant. I'd want a bit of a lick my wounds kind of time, but still go out and meet people, still keep a touch on the industry, because if you remove yourself completely, it's going to be so hard to dive back in.
Yeah, and I think having a few things in the diary every week. Ideally have 8 hours scheduled a week where you're leaving the house to do something. And actually, when you're being made redundant, sometimes it can feel a little bit powerless, that you don't have any agency, that it's happening to you,
Mm-hmm.
not with you. So then you're finding things to do that actually give you a little bit of joy
Yeah.
and sense of achievement. And it may be something that has nothing to do with work.
Yeah.
But, deciding, okay, I'm going to do a gym class. I know somebody who was made redundant a few years ago and he totally got into spin. And he became the spin man.
Yeah, I know
But
someone
he
who went
loved
full on
it.
into reformer Pilates, and now she's an instructor and she's living her life.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
there's lots of things that you can do. That whole transferable skills piece. So, what are the skill sets that you bring to the table that could be applied in maybe 10 different ways in 10 different markets?
But also, actually, from a recruiter's perspective, I love seeing if someone's been made redundant and they can tell me a little course they've done. And there's so many free open university courses that you can do. And it just showcases, hey, I was still hustling. I was still trying to learn. I still take an investment in my career. So if you are really stuck, have a look online for the free courses, a free Excel course, a free AI course, a free whatever.
Yeah. And also, if you've been made redundant and you haven't done Strength Finders,
What's that?
It's the most amazing thing ever. About 25 quid. Order the book, Strength Finders 2.0 by Tim Roth. We'll put it in the show notes for you. And it's an assessment of, takes about 30 minutes to do online. And what are the things that keeps your brain happy? So the things that you are naturally good at, that doesn't cause you any stress and that you love doing. And somebody told me about this, it's about 15 years ago. And it totally changed who I was and what I did because I didn't quite realize it. But my number one skill is that I'm strategic. And as you and I both know, sometimes recruitment can be a bit more operational rather than strategic.
Yeah.
So then when I put myself into strategic roles, I was way better and way happier.
Interesting.
But what is really interesting about the Strength Finders results is it focuses on what are your top 5 skills.
Yep.
Doesn't talk about your weaknesses because guess what? They're there anyway.
Yeah.
But if you orientate yourself towards opportunities that plays to those strengths, you will naturally be happier and naturally be less stressed and potentially more successful. And that can be really helpful in then that piece about transitioning post-redundancy. What are the opportunities that I want to go
It
for?
can be a refreshing pause, can't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. A forced pause.
But it's tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough. And having a group of people around you that support you, that lift you up during that period is really, really important. The people that basically, celebrate with you, but also when you need to be told off and to get back on the wagon, it's massively important. Because when you get made redundant, effectively you get, you lose your friends, your work buddies, your routine, as you said. So then you have to replace that to make sure that you still basically continue.
Stay in motion, right?
Yeah,
Don't
absolutely.
stagnate. And actually, just some practical tips from a recruiter, if I may. Make sure your LinkedIn photo is not from a stag do, your graduation 15 years ago or whatever. It doesn't need to be the most professional photo in the world. It just needs to look like it's not that. And please, please, please put the open to work banner. There is a lot of temporary work available, and on the back side of the recruiter, LinkedIn recruiter, which you can't see, we can't search by people immediately available. We can only search by people available and open to temporary work. So make sure you adjust your LinkedIn profile to say you're open to temporary work. And also when people have open to work green banner, I know that they're probably immediately available. So I'll contact them for immediately available work. So those are the 2 takeaways from this episode if you haven't done it yet. Open to temporary work and green work banner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on LinkedIn, absolutely. Yes, you have your profile picture, but behind that you have a long banner. And very often people leave it with the norm grey that LinkedIn gives you. You can use that to insert a photo, a picture, a graphic, anything that illustrates who you are and what you do. Because the moment you open LinkedIn, you see the banner and the photo. So capture the recruiter's attention by putting a picture into that long grey banner piece.
Have you ever heard the theory of wearing like a conversation piece outfit? So you go to a networking event and you should wear a red blazer, or you should wear cool glasses, or something that makes it easy for someone to go, hey, I like your jacket. And
Mhm.
you could use that banner as a conversation starter for someone to say, hey, I didn't know that you were into whatever, or that's a really interesting perspective. You could put something on that banner that's a conversation starter.
Yep. So I basically put on mine, and I've changed it to be a pink salmon-y
Mm.
color. And it's basically my talking point there is about helping people enjoy Monday mornings as a way to grab attention. But if you look at my photo on LinkedIn, it's one where I'm laughing into the camera. And
It
I
is,
had
yeah.
one that I was a little bit more serious looking direct. But the laughing into the camera actually is more me.
Totally.
You know,
Yeah.
than the serious, like rather stern looking professional, which is what I thought I should have.
Yep.
And when I changed that last summer, I got so many messages going, oh my God, Annette, love the photo. So there's a couple of little tricks like that.
Oh, yeah. And also no photos on CVs, please, while we're talking about them. Remove, delete, makes you look either American, European, or people just
French.
judge you. Or French, yes, very French. And people judge you, so just take them off your CVs as well.
And from an ageism point of view,
ageism, racism, the whole shebang.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sexism, take it off. Don't let people judge you. Okay, so to wrap up the podcast, how would people find you if they wanted to utilize your career coaching?
LinkedIn is great. So Annette Minihan,
We'll link you.
pretty easy to find because of the unusual surname. But I try and post every day.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're somebody who wants inspiration and who's looking for the occasional nudge, looking at what I'm posting is great. We're starting to do a podcast. So I know, very scary. That's coming out as well. And I love sharing stories. But I think for all of us, the whole thing is basically share what we know so that we make it easier for other people to learn and to grow.
Amen.
And being part of that community.
And who's your typical client?
People who actually are nice and decent.
Oh, I'll have them too, please.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting because from working for myself and running my own business, we have a couple of very simple rules, but we just work for people who are nice.
Amen.
And we really, really believe in helping them be better at what they do, grow their business, and building teams that love to come to work on Monday mornings. So we're not going to work for Goldman's, sorry.
They're not so bad. Goldman's, use me. Call me.
But what we're looking for is we're looking to work with people who are great.
Yeah.
And who actually want to look after their people. And I think that's what's important.
Fabulous. All right. Well, I'm going to put the website for the book that you recommended. I'm going to put your website, your link, and then we're going to put the upwards.
Yeah, we have a little kind of, I suppose, article that we wrote yesterday about that, which will help.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much. It was so nice to see you again. Right, we'll see you next time.
Amazing.
Thanks.